Hello and welcome to today's video. It's an econolastic video with myself and Joe.
Hello.
Myself, Andrew. And today's video is going to be about how someone with dyslexia, that's what Joe suffers with, sort of navigates their way through education, early years, and into the real world, and giving you sort of a bit of a success story, maybe a motivation for if you yourself have dyslexia, you can see how you can deal with it and succeed with it. Or potentially if you don't know much about dyslexia, it'll give you a little bit more of an insight into what people who have dyslexia struggle with and how they work around that. So me, myself, not that familiar with the learning disability. Obviously, until I met Joe, I've got a bit more idea about it. But just first things first, can you sort of explain to me, Joe, what someone unfamiliar with learning disability, dyslexia, what it is that you would struggle with?
Yes, so Andrew, I just struggle with essentially English altogether. So obviously reading and writing a massive thing. So for instance, one of the things that I tend to do if I was writing on the computer or handwriting, that if I was saying a sentence and I'd say "and this," then I could actually sometimes write "this" twice. So it would say "and this."
You just miss out, or just miss the fact that you wrote two words.
Exactly. I just completely miss the fact that there's been two words and just carry on writing as if nothing's happened. So that's one of the things. And then obviously spelling is a big thing as well, and how to pronounce words. There's a test that you do as part of dyslexic test that I've done, where you get a paragraph and it's a little story, and most of it's in 9% is in normal English words. 10% is actually made up words, literally just literally random sort of letters. But what the test is to do is you read the normal English and then you get to one of them words and you're meant to be able to pronounce it at least in the way that...
Was it meant to resemble a word that should fit there, but it's spelt incorrectly?
I can't actually remember that. I don't think so.
It's probably an example of how you didn't even recognise if it's a real word, if it's just a random assortment.
Yeah, it's a bizarre thing. Unless you have done it, then you understand what I mean. But it is a weird thing. But essentially, Andrew, given that same paragraph, would be able to read it and then pronounce the words that are made up fairly okay. Whereas I just had no idea
of what it's meant to say without even knowing that it's wrong. I'd still power through.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Right. Well, knowing you then as well as I do, and the fact that these conditions don't seem to hold you back as much as there's things that you do struggle with, and I've seen that, and we know you do. What would you say then your biggest sort of strength is off the back of that?
Just the willingness to work hard. So I just understood from a young age that I had to work harder than anybody else because of this. And it was for me never wanting to use an excuse that because I have dyslexia, then it was going to hold me back. It just meant that I had to work harder. So someone does 5 hours work, well, I have to do 15. It doesn't even mean I have to do double.
I think not that many people have that mindset, do they? No. I think they maybe see it as an affliction, and obviously it is difficult to deal with, but doesn't mean you're stupid.
No.
I've long said and continue to say Joe's one of the most intelligent people I ever met. It just means he can't get it into words. And that's luckily where we work well together, because I can translate some of his stuff that doesn't always come off. But the thought process, there's nothing wrong with that. No. It's just the process of getting it into the written English that you struggle with.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. 100%. So if we sort of take it back to when you were a bit younger, I presume when you were a bit younger, when was it that you were actually sort of first diagnosed, almost formally? I don't quite know the diagnosis process of dyslexia, But when would you say you were diagnosed?
So I was around about 10, I think, in year 5. You're around about 10 in year 5. And I can't really remember the test because obviously it's a long time ago now.
You remember struggling with it before this point as well? Like
yeah. So I think I'm going to say dyslexia is on the rise. I don't mean quite like that. I mean it's able to be diagnosed now. As still as as I remember when I was a kid. I can't remember again being a big thing. Even then. So my parents and stuff didn't really know, and my granddad especially said, I would talk with him for hours about various subjects, ranging from history and the news. I loved the news as a kid, couldn't get enough of it. And I'd be able to go and tell him what's been on the news that day and literally discuss, quite sort of complicated and above my age topics. Probably people don't even discuss it until they're 30. And I was doing that when I was, 9, because I had that mind. But then I remember him saying to my mum that, he can't understand why I can talk about all these subjects and remember everything like that. But then as soon as that information was presented to me in terms of written, I could just not read it. I just couldn't do it. So they always knew that I struggled, but couldn't ever quite understand how I was able to think so well and not.
What was it in year 5 that changed then?
My teacher, to be honest. So I had a really, really good teacher, Mrs. Fox, in year 5 and year 6. She came up with us.
Shout out to Mrs. Fox.
Mrs. Fox. And she was great. And she understood that I was different to people. I quite like a structure as well. And that's one of the things of dyslexic people. And she, identified I had difficulties because, again, she could see that I could talk and I had everything else there, but I just couldn't write it down. And so she helped me through it and sort of diagnosed me. Really.
So she just sort of diagnosed you herself almost at that point?
Yeah, I think another teacher did a test with me.
But there was nothing like before. It wasn't like a dyslexic society came and did a test and said, yes, this child's dyslexic.
No. And this is where...
So what happened beyond that point then? So when was it sort of formally diagnosed, I guess?
Yeah, it's a bit weird because... So I had that test as a kid and sort of got diagnosed. And then I had help sort of given me in high school, but no other tests were done. Then went to college, did another little test actually at college. Again, confirmed that I was sort of dyslexic. But going to university was actually the first time where they turned around to me and said...
I think that's probably the case with a lot of people as well.
Yeah, and they actually turn around and say, well, okay, you've done these little tests, but the problem is because of your age, it's still actually hard to tell. And I actually had to do like a full test with a psychologist. I can't remember. It wasn't a psychologist, but it's in that bracket of he's a proper doctor. I think he had a PhD in all letters after his name, and I had to do it with him. And it was a fairly long test. And you actually get at the end of the test, you get a proper booklet, and it is it's quite a few pages, 35 pages. And I still have it now. Did
you have to apply for this test at uni, or did someone come to you once you on your application said I believe I'm dyslexic?
So I had to. Again, this is going back a few years ago. So I had to, in my first year of uni, I had to apply for it through the university, and then they would do the referral to the doctor psychologist who then does the test. Now, I seem to remember it was still being funded at that time, but I know there might have been a few changes which may mean you have to pay for it now, which is, in my personal opinion, pretty disgusting. So, but I did have it for free, And yeah, you just get a booklet, and essentially then he passed that them findings back to the university. So obviously the university took
and that's what changes like what support you got going forward.
Yeah, exactly. So it all marries together in the end. And then that booklet I've been able to show to employers.
I see.
To evidence that I obviously am dyslexic, and he has a massive summary and saying essentially what I struggle with, which is sometimes, if information is passed on to me quickly, I just cannot process it. And I find it, if someone's talking on the phone quickly to me and telling me like lots of information, after the first one or two words, my head's completely gone.
Yeah, scrambled.
Yeah, absolutely gone.
So now we've sort of moved on to what was happening at university. What was it probably at university that you struggled with most, and what were you able to do to get help with that?
So with my dyslexia, I struggle with writing in a restricted time frame.
Right. So the exams, it was gonna hamper you most then, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So going back a tiny bit, at college, I did a BTEC, and I really did well at that because it allowed me to have time to do the coursework. So university,
so that played to your strengths, didn't it? The BTEC, in that it's coursework based. It wasn't the exam side of things.
No. So
and if you need motivation, Joe actually got a scholarship from university because of his BTEC results.
Yeah.
So the potential's there if that's what your strengths are. This is certainly a route to look at.
Yeah, 100%. And I think the BTECs have slightly changed now, because I do think they have a few exams in actually now. But yeah, I think so. I did hear that. But mine at the time was 100% coursework, and it just allowed me to, if I got the coursework on a Friday, I would start it on the Friday, because again, I knew that I had to get it done, but that helped me redraft over how many times I needed to get it to where it should be. So university, that's one of the things that I was going to struggle with. So that's why I sought out help. And if anyone is struggling with dyslexia, definitely go and seek help. And
all it did, I know you said like you've had some experiences where people would sort of say, why are you getting longer in the exam, or that kind of thing. I think in Joe's instance, it was more because people knew Joe was clever, top of the class, that kind of thing. They were like, well, he shouldn't be getting any more help. He's already clever, that kind of thing, rather than it was them actually having any grudge against you having extra time. I think they were more jealous of the fact that, well, he's already clever, why is he getting extra time? When all it really did was level the playing field. It just allowed you to get that knowledge that you had, get it onto paper, because if you were left with a pen and paper and trying to do the exams at the same time that I was doing them, I struggled to get stuff down in the time. If you were trying to write it, it would probably just come out as broken English the whole way through, wouldn't it?
Yeah, 100% right. And then that's what I had. So I had extra time in a computer in an exam. And like Andrew said, all it is there to do is to level the playing field. It's to be able to put my knowledge onto paper. And it's quite nice because I always ignored anyone. If anyone said anything anyway, it doesn't really bother me. They can say what they want. But, for me, it's nice to have close mates at uni, one being Andrew, that know how I worked. We used to work so closely together. So, if I went to an exam and had paper and just a pencil in the same time as Andrew, like you said, I just wouldn't be able to get the same answer out.
Even though we know we had the same knowledge.
Even though we know
so much together, we worked all the way through our degrees together.
Exactly.
Like we made sure we were both. If one topic we were struggling with, we'd work on it until both our understandings aligned. So we both had the knowledge. And it's not like going into an exam with extra 45 minutes in a computer screen. If you don't have the knowledge, you're still going to fail. You're still going to not get 40% or whatever you're going to get. Make a difference, is it?
Exactly. Like Andrew said, if I hadn't revised with Andrew and we hadn't spent the time together and gaining that knowledge, you could have 4 days in there. It's not going to make a difference. It's not going to make a difference. But it definitely didn't make a difference between me getting like a 2-1 and a first. Just because that quality, the answer can be slightly better on a computer. Obviously, spell check I could use, which again makes a massive difference to me. And also the things like repeating words. Now, if I was to write on the paper, it doesn't get highlighted, but obviously everyone knows on Word it gets highlighted or underlined. So you can see, and when you're writing under that kind of time and pressure, you can actually really see my dyslexia come out, because it goes from doing that a little bit in coursework because I've got like longer to write, to doing it a lot in an exam period. And that
I think the other thing you should let people know as well is the fact that you actually denied getting longer time for coursework, didn't you? The university actually did offer you this.
Yes.
But you knew that that wasn't something that was going to hold you back, because, like I said, you've already said, if the deadline was, let's say, 2 weeks from now, I could probably wait a week. Not that I would do that, but I probably could wait a week and then get it smashed out in a week. Whereas Joe just knew that if he got the assignment 2 weeks from today, he was starting today. That wasn't like, he would only be providing himself with an excuse to have extra time for coursework. I think that's just a really good lesson for anyone, isn't it? Like, whether you're dyslexic or not, but like, don't give yourself leeway that you don't need. You know in yourself you don't need. You should trust your capabilities and trust like what you can do in the time given. And also, you know, he knew that he didn't need that to level the playing field, is what we were talking about before. He could outshine everyone else in the time given because he knew how to use his time more wisely.
And I think that was a mentality switch from me for the later half of my GCSEs going to college. You know, a switch really did flick in my brain of going, well, this guy's, you know, can do this in this time, this guy, and she can do this, and I stopped all of that. And I was just saying, well, I don't care if you were able to go on your PS3 until 9 o'clock at night and do no revision and still get a B. I can't do that. And that's what I had to accept. And it's sometimes, like Andrew says, you can't, with anything, you just can't make an excuse. And that's what it is. And
also, you can as well, you can't compare yourself to other people in that sense. It might, you know, you can apply that sort of logic to anything in life. You know, oh well, he eats 4,000 calories and he's still shredded. Well, I eat 4,000 calories and I'm fat. It's like, well, then you can't eat 4,000 calories. It's that kind of logic. You've got to play with the cards that you've been dealt. And that's what, you know, anyone should do. Even in Joe's position, he didn't use it to try and get a bit of extra time because he knew he could overcome that obstacle. So again, my understanding of dyslexia is not advanced. It's pretty limited. I don't know too much about it. So does dyslexia actually have any effect on your ability to understand numerical data, maths, you know, that kind of data number side of things?
So dyslexia for numbers is actually called dyspraxia, I believe. And I've never been diagnosed with that.
I've heard of it, but I probably wouldn't have known it was that.
Yeah, I've never been diagnosed with it, but my dyslexia does come into play slightly, where I just find if numbers are linked with words, then if you like on an Excel spreadsheet or anything like that, if you got, you know, letters here and it's linked with a number here, then sometimes I can seem to jump around a little bit. So obviously then that impacts on where the numbers coming from. So I do find that.
Not the numbers themselves that you find difficult.
No, not really. So sometimes I could have it a tiny bit because obviously it's so closely linked. Dyslexia, dyspraxia is sort of the same sort of thing. And I do sometimes find when I'm typing in numbers, you know, the number sort of comes out a little bit different to what I actually think, what I'm looking at it as. But, you know, I probably have it acute, but I know if you do have, like, you know, real dyspraxia, the same level I have dyslexia, I mean, you find just simple addition really hard.
Okay.
So like it's that. I mean, you can't.
Your side of things, it's nothing.
No,
like that.
It's not. I think it's sometimes just my dyslexia sort of a little bleeding into that side of it. I think probably.
And I know personally from our working and study relationship that it wasn't it wasn't a lack of understanding. It was just more like it was a bit rusty. You hadn't done A-level maths. You'd only done GCSE maths. By the time it'd taken 2 years, 3 years, or whatever it was since you'd last done maths on a regular basis, it was difficult to get back into it.
Yeah,
but you still went on to get firsts in your quantitative modules, didn't you? So
yeah, to be fair, I did find the learning curve for the maths the hardest, but again, that was, like you say, it wasn't really to do with my dyslexia. It was the fact that finished GCSE English maths, didn't do that well in it. I could have done better because again, I was learning at the time of how to manage my time and work ethic. And then, so I could have done better at that point, but I didn't. And then I had 3 years at college, which meant, and I did little to no maths in that time. So when I went to uni, the gulf was massive. But one time Drew helped me with it and taught it me, I could redo it in an exam. So yeah, I was fine.
So people may not know, but we both did economics courses. In particular, we did economics with international finance and banking. Do you think that course, like in hindsight, was a good choice for you, given your difficulties and where your strengths were?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I don't think I would have chose. Well, one of the reasons why I chose it is because I was passionate about it, because I did a little module in my business course. So that, again, for any dyslexic students out there who may be struggling, again, and this is hard at school because you get set, curriculum that you have to do, but try and find as quickly as possible your passion, because if you find your passion, it makes everything else easier. Again, you can put the hours in, because I enjoyed economics. I was able to put the hours in, but if I was doing English literature, for instance, then not only would I struggle with it to begin with, but I wouldn't have any passion to actually do it. So that's one piece of advice. But also economics, for me, with dyslexia, did help because you've got graphs and you've got maths. So there's not just English, and also the English does work off a lot of the graphs. So again, the whole it just really appealed to my mindset.
That visual element, I think, that helps you on it, because the reading side of things never been your strength. But applying logic to a drawn out graph and seeing why the curve went this way, where it intersected, how it changes, you could all make sense of that.
It's analytical skills as well, and economic students are pretty much the highest paid graduates, I think, of graduating university. And it's because it's the problem solving skills and looking at things in a different analytical way. And again, that always has played into my ballpark of thinking. So again, I've always actually probably had a bit of a head start to most people. So that sort of compensates for the getting it on paper, which I find, really helpful.
So I think we'll wrap up with one last question then. I think I've learned quite a lot about some of the stuff that you've dealt with. Hopefully some of the people watching, it will help them learn more about dyslexia and dealing with it. So what would be your one biggest tip for someone dealing with dyslexia? What's the one thing you'd probably want them to take away that's going to help them with their studies or throughout their life? What would that be?
So my biggest tip is time. Now, it's a bit of a weird one because also it's your enemy at the same time. But as soon as you understand that you may need to actually work that little bit more, time can actually be your friend, but you just have to accept it. Like I've already said in this video, that if I've got a piece of coursework on the Friday, I would then start to look at it on the Friday and write a good chunk of it up, because I would then spend more time refining it. And
you need to spend more time refining it, wouldn't you?
Yeah, exactly. So time for me is one of the biggest. But then I've also alluded to a couple of smaller ones, do what you're passionate about, work hard. Again, that's in the sort of included in the time aspect of it as well. But just do what you're passionate about.
The main thing is understand your own abilities and therefore give yourself time to achieve what you are capable of achieving, basically.
100%.
100%. Right, interesting stuff. Well, we hope someone out there, a few of you, many of you have found this helpful. If you've got any questions, of course, leave them in the comments section.
Yeah.
And if you want to drop us an email, ask us any questions, ask Joe in particular any questions about his dyslexia, of course, feel free to do that.
Yeah,
and we hope to see you around on the Econolastic website.
Yeah, I'd love to hear from you guys, and if you needed to talk and stuff, I'd always be up for doing some chats, because I had some people in my life that really did help me through it, and especially my parents. But if you need somebody else, then it'd be great to chat.
Yeah.
So thanks for watching this video.